and our digital service squad. And today we're going to be talking about Canva and what was the other application, Jason? Canva and Pexel and image editing. So I just wanted to formally welcome Jason and the Winged Whale team. And I know we might have a few more people join in. So if that happens, that's great. But Jason, these seminars have been really, really helpful. So looking forward to hearing more about today's topic on image editing software.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know I'll let Anthony kind of front this and Quinn. So if you guys, Anthony, if you want to introduce Quinn, go right ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So Quinn's one of our newest members to help us out this time around, and he'll be going over to image editing and software for webinar 5. Quinn, if you just share your screen, that would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
So we can get the ball started there. So as you guys know, as Susie and I have said, that this week's webinar will be image editing and software. We'll be going over Pexel and Canva and kind of outlining what those two programs are, how to really use it, all that kind of fun stuff. And stay tuned for our next 2 webinars. So next week's webinar will be on project management software, so Trello and Asana. And then we'll wrap up our webinar session with email marketing service platform. That will also be done by Quinn. So if you just present.
Yeah, can you guys see the screen all right?
I can see
it,
yeah.
I can see your screen.
Okay, great.
Hit present there. Awesome. And then next.
All right, so as we said, we're covering imaging, editing, and software.
Yep, and then the next 3 webinars will, as I entailed right there, they're going to be this week's image editing, next week will be project management, and then webinar 7 will be email marketing service platform. In terms of the overview of what we'll be going over, we're just going to go over what Canva really is, what it can really do for your business, as well as just understanding, how you can directly use it for your business in terms of creating original content for social, and creating original content for your website as well as tweaking stock photos and how to really get them. And that's where Pexel kind of comes in. We're going to teach you another outlet of how to get free stock images and how to really utilize and find these images that can really bring make your brand pop. So I'll pass it off to Quinn, who'll give an introduction of himself, and he'll take the ball from there.
All right, so as Anthony mentioned, we've worked together in the past, and I decided to come on and help out you guys today, and give you guys a bit of insight on using some relatively easy platforms on creating graphics for your business. I've been in live ops content marketing in the gaming industry, as well as telehealth in platform development, app development, digital marketing, and email marketing. So the main points that we're going to touch on today is how does design like this impact your business? How does design impact your customers? And how can you best apply your business's branding to marketing actions? Now, you've covered a bit of this in previous webinars, and I'm sure you see it almost every day in your own businesses. And you've likely seen it on things like Facebook cover photos, social posts, everything from that to brochures. We're going to be taking a look at how you can apply this knowledge to those types of things today. So what we're really talking about here is engagement. This is a great representation of how much engagement matters. And engagement really comes from how engaging your content is, right? So whether that's content that your business provides or content that your business uses to market itself, right? So you'll see here, most things that you're measuring are engagement based. Now, what's Canva? So it's an image editing software, but I hesitate to say software. It's a website that's easy to go on. You don't have to download anything. It's nice and easy, super simple. They give you tons of tools at your disposal to be able to build really anything. We're going to be going through a live demo of that in just a sec. But I like to say that it's like Photoshop, but free, just really, really basic. As I said, ease of access, it's simple. They have free content on there, things like stock imagery that we'll be covering a bit more later with pixels. And then formatting is really nice and easy on there. So when you're starting with Canva, you're going to go to the home page. I'll be covering this in the live demo in just a sec, but this is pretty important to take a look at. And what you're going to do is you're going to create a design from this section that you see here, a screenshot of here. You're going to basically create a base template based on your purpose of what you want to do with your graphic, right? Now, this base template, as you see there, it can be a presentation, a video, Instagram post. It can even be a brochure, like I mentioned before. It can be just a document like a memo, a poster, a logo. It can be pretty much anything through Canva. Now, this matters because sizing is everything when it comes to graphics, right? If you look at a Facebook cover photo, for example, here you see Gen Zs and winged whales. Now, looking at these images, you're going to try to eyeball what the dimensions are. Sure, you can look it up online and it'll usually tell you what the dimension sizes are, but that's just an extra step. With Canva, it's nice because you can go in, you can choose a template for a Facebook cover image. It's going to have the best quality dimensions by pixels for your Facebook cover photo, for post, for whatever it is, and that's going to allow you to have, you know, efficiency and have it be so that nothing is coming out on the other end and you're going, oh wait, this doesn't look how I wanted it to look. So what's next? We're going to start with a template. Now this is important as well because it's going to show it's really where your jumping off point's going to be, right? It's where you're going to decide what type of header you want, right? If I go back here to this slide and you look at these two headers, they're both very different. One provides a bit more information on what they do, and the other is simply branding, right? For winged whales, it's a nice clean design. For Gen Zs, it's something where you're trying to provide a bit more information just to get your point across. So that's a great thing to keep in mind when looking at these different templates. And then you have your customized area as well. So now we're going to head over to Canva. Let me just pull it up here. All right, can everyone see that all right?
Yep, we can see
it. Okay, so as I mentioned before, you can see the design templates here. So we can just pick one of those. Today, we will go into Facebook cover image, just like I mentioned. Now from here, as I mentioned, you have a bunch of different templates to choose from. You'll notice when you hover over some of them, they say free. Other ones don't say anything at all, or they'll say paid. But for the most part, all you need is the free version of this, right? You have tons and tons of templates available to you, a lot of which are free, right? You'll notice that they're all pre-made as well. These are so that you can go in and you can just simply change the colors around, change the image, and boom, you're done, right? Makes it really nice and easy and gives you a lot of really cool artistic creative designs. A big part of this is the actual images in them themselves, right? These have to be stock images or something like that. So we'll be covering that in just a moment when we go through Canva's photos section. So as I said, this is your customization area. You'll see that you have the option to add a page if you want to draft up 2 copies at the same time. You have a few other quick tools over here just in terms of notes and collaboration. But really where we're going to start is just going to be, you know, using one of these templates. So all you have to do is click and it'll pop up in your creative area. Now from here, you have the opportunity to go in and select any element you want, right? So in this one, you'll see that I have a nice green bubble here, helps emphasize the writing. Really good for just a quick Facebook cover photo, right? So you're saying what your business name is, what you're doing, and what your website is, if your goal is to direct your customers to your website eventually from your socials, right? You can also go with something nice and simple like this. That's one of my personal favorites on here just because it's nice and easy. It says the company's name, has very few distractions, and it's nice and clean, right? Very Google, Apple-esque. If I switch back over to this, what we'll do is we'll cover some of the editing tools real quick. So you'll notice once I'm in here, certain things like speech bubbles show up, and this basically allows you to make notes for yourself or make notes for others that might be logging in and working on this as well. That gets a bit more complex, but pretty easy to figure out. We won't be covering it in depth today, but you can easily collaborate with a team using Canva as well. So let's start with just say I want to change this to blue. All I have to do is go up to the color option chooser up here, and I've got different document colors, so different colors that are already in use here. So if I were to change, say, this text to blue, and I was to go back here, now blue is going to pop up here as well, right? So it's really nice and friendly because any colors that you use, you don't need to worry about going in and knowing the hex codes for them. You can just choose them right away, right? Speaking of hex codes, if your brand or business does have specific colors that it wants to use, this is perfect for it. All you need to do is enter in that hex code right here and you're good to go. So as I said, let's get creative here. Let's make that blue. Let's change this back to something black and easy enough, right? Now, say I'm not a big fan of this sort of gritty looking photo in the background, right? That brings us to our next section where we're going to cover uploads and photos. So these are really good covered in tandem, just because if I go into uploads, you can see that I have some images that I've used in the past here that I have available to me, right? Now, this is something where you can just as easily click on upload media here, go into your computer's files and pick any photo you want, as long as it's, I believe, a JPEG or a PNG. Obviously below a certain size dimension, because it can't handle files that are too large. I would try to keep it around 1 megabyte, maybe less. If you go into, say, just select one, it's going to pop up right away, and you can just put that right in there. Now, from here, you can resize. It's very intuitive. You can resize, you can rotate, you can do whatever you like to it. We're going to get rid of that for now. But we're going to go over into photos. Now in photos, you'll see that there's a lot of stock photography here. Now, one of the great things that I mentioned about Canva before is that they provide a lot of free stock photography. So anything that you're hovering over here and it says free, that means that you can use that. You don't have to include any artist information. You don't have to include Canva in any of the copyright information or anything here. This is just photography that Canva has bought for its free users to use, right? So that's really nice when it comes to trying to operate a small business on a budget, because this is something that is a very valuable tool to you. Now, let's say I still want to go with this computer theme. Actually, you know what? It's tax season, so let's start with tax accountant. Let's try that out. We can do something like this. You'll notice this is not one of the free images because it has all the watermarking, right? Now from here, what we can do is we can right click and notice that our shape hasn't stayed with us here. We can send backwards just by layering backwards, and you'll see it pops up there. So that's really just a matter of where this is being located on in terms of layers, right? So that looks good. You can use that for something like a Facebook cover photo. You're going to want to just pay attention to what information you're overall providing, and keep in mind that this isn't showing how big it's going to look on Facebook, right? I'm sure everyone's seen Facebook cover photos where the writing's too small or the writing's too big, or it just sort of looks off. That's another reason why those templates are really nice, because everything's nice and proportionate. You can also see your zoom level down here. So if you do want to see what it looks like zoomed out a bit, then you can easily do so just by clicking the different zoom levels here. I'm going to switch back to 75. And let's try another photo so that we can get rid of the watermark. Just try computer. Let's bring this one in. And again, we're just going to layer it backwards. All right, so that basically covers bringing in your own photos and using Canva stock images. We're going to be covering more stock image topics later when we cover the Pexels platform. But further, when you go into elements here, you can incorporate different shapes. That's where we would have gotten this blue shape here. You can do everything from basic ones that are, for the most part, free to more complex ones that, you know, there's a bit less free ones there. You can even incorporate charts that have numbers backing them up, gradients, and then you have different topical, a topical organization here as well, right? Things that are very popular right now, sort of like a curated library from Canva. So that's great, especially for Facebook posts itself, maybe not so much for a Facebook cover image. That's going to last a bit longer and not be as seasonal. Additionally, you have your text option, right? That's something where you would have gotten this from. Within text, you have the regular editing options like you would in Word or really any other platform. You can change your font here. Let's change this to Open Sans, very popular font. Nice and clean. We can make it bold. Looks good, right? You can italicize it, underline it, change it all to uppercase, change the alignment, everything that you need there. Canva does provide some animation options as well, and that's where effects comes into play. You can do certain shading or neon signs, but then additionally you can go in and make it so that certain things are animating when it's showing up, right? If wherever you're hosting this allows it. I don't believe a Facebook cover image really allows it, but there are some applications where you might want to choose something like that. You'll see they have preset headings here, as well as more free text options here, right? And these are all ones that you can edit as you see fit with your business, right? This is great for things like sales. I've used it for certain buy one, get one promotions and things as well. Even Christmas cards, it's good for. As I mentioned, you can make videos through here as well. So they provide some stock audio, which can be useful sometimes, but really doesn't come into play too much. But if you are looking to build something small, maybe an infographic video that lasts a few seconds, then using something like this is perfect because it's nice and free. You can just search however you please from the top, or you can choose from their categories here. You can also embed videos or have videos loop as they play. You can see that one animating itself there. Again, doesn't really apply to Facebook cover photos, but some posts it might apply very well to. Backgrounds are similar to photos. It's just something where it's a bit more of a flat background, something that's going to take up a bit less space. I prefer using photos than this, just because these are more patterned. These are great for if you're doing something where you want this and maybe you want to get rid of the shape and you want to say Happy New Year, right? We're going to align that to the center if we can here. Maybe it won't let us. And we can just drag and drop wherever we see fit. Change the color so that it pops a bit more, maybe add some shadow. White doesn't really work very well there. So we can always choose a different photo and change to something like that, right? So really you have a lot of flexibility in terms of getting rid of assets, adding assets, really entire flexibility to what you want to do with your with the template you've chosen. In folders, you can just, sort of organize what you want to do with all the content that you've uploaded and what you've already used in the past. This is, I believe, a paid feature. So just be mindful of what's free and what's paid. Most things that are free will say free on them. Most things that are paid will either have this little crown or they'll have just nothing at all. So just be wary of that. Anything that, as you saw with the watermark, if you do accidentally choose something that is paid, then you'll know right away. Under the more section here, we just have certain integrations. So if you want to integrate a QR code, embed a Google map, maybe include an Instagram link, that sort of thing, then you're good to go. You can also integrate with pixels. This is something that isn't super necessary, but it's something where if you want that extra, you want to save that extra minute, bringing your photos into Canva, then integrating with something like Pexels is a good option. So that basically covers it for the design aspect of Canva. I guess we can open it up to any questions pertaining to the actual design implementation of this, or anything where, yeah, if you have any questions about designing something like this.
Quinn, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you integrate image from your library and it has a white background, can we wipe the background? That's what I have trouble with.
If you have a white background, so for example, you have something where it's like this Canva logo, but it has a white background to it.
Yeah,
right?
I want to leave the Canva, what's inside of the image, but remove the background, and it's impossible.
Right. So unfortunately, Canva doesn't have anything like that right now, I don't believe. Unless they might have added something up here. No, it doesn't look like it right now. So that's something that's more specific to Photoshop. But honestly, there's a bit of a workaround there. You might be able to find a website out there that deals with something like that, right? That allows you to do that. There might be some online options for you. I know that this is sort of a weird workaround, but if you do use PowerPoint, PowerPoint actually has an option where if you do bring your logo in, you can cut out white backgrounds, and then you can always save the image from there. So it's a bit of a hard workaround, but if Photoshop's not in your vocabulary or your budget, then it's something where you can find those means to get rid of that, because that's a very common issue that a lot of people have that might not be so savvy with platforms like Photoshop.
Does the background removal tool not work for white backgrounds? I mean, I usually use it to get rid of backgrounds that like actual backgrounds, not just white. I haven't tried it with a white background, but the background removal tool is pretty robust in Canva.
Yeah.
Any background, Christina. I mean, I didn't mean just white, just any background. I know there is, you have to use some paid apps, I guess, they remove background. I know that.
It's built into Canva too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I don't know if it's on, I have the paid version, so I'm not sure if it's not on.
I've never seen it on the free version. I do know that the customization menu here is a little bit different from the paid version. They do change that around every once in a while through effects, filter. If anything, it would be in that area, I believe. So I don't think that they've added it to the free version just yet. But again, it's something that I believe you'll be able to look up, and you should be able to find a tool online that allows you to do so. Something a bit more similar to manually cropping an image like Photoshop allows you to.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anyone else? All right. So if we switch back over here. So basically that's covered the customization area, selecting assets, editing those assets, using that editing toolbar to change colors and change fonts, adding items and uploading your own items, plus add-ons and embedding briefly. Now what we're going to take a look at is actually sharing and downloading that creative. So if I go back into my creative, you can see that I have options up in the top right to download or share. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to download. It's going to automatically set you as a PNG file type. You also have the option to go to a JPEG, which is usually a bit of a lower quality and smaller file than a PNG is. PNG, I would say, is the standard for any sort of export through Photoshop or anything like that. With the premium availability, you can change the size of it to be a bit bigger. Maybe if you want it to double as a Facebook cover photo, but also as a poster or something like that. You're going to want to size that up. You can also set it to have a transparent background through Premium, or compress the file to be a bit lower quality. But really all you're going to want to do here is click download. It's going to prepare for a second, and then as you see down at the bottom left of my screen, it's downloaded right to my computer. So that's been put right into my pictures library, and it gives you a bit of a promotion here. Now we can toggle back over to Pexels if there aren't any outstanding questions about Canva. So this is Pexels. Once you go to pexels.com, you're going to just see this homepage. It's really nice. It provides a lot of, they have a lot of really good stock photography for one that provides really just free stock photos. There's a lot out there like Getty Images that allow you to pay, and you will get a certain amount of photos per month, or you get access to certain photos. This one's a good option just because it is free. You're not questioning how you can use photos, and you're not questioning where you can use those photos, right? From the get-go here, you see that you have your search bar, but we're going to cover that in just a sec because this part is actually very helpful. So this provides usually like a weekly or monthly aesthetic, sometimes based off on what's going on right now. Sometimes, for example, right now, it might be ideal for it to show tax season things, Black History Month things, that sort of thing. So you can see that, you're going to see that in the Discover category here, where you can see popular collections, things like Valentine's Day. That's something where you like, if you're looking for Valentine's Day stuff, this is going to be the best of the best that Pexels has to offer. Just scrolling through there, you see some backgrounds, some regular photography, and some people. There's a really good range here. They also have some stock videos. It's a bit more rare that you'd use something like this, but if you want something that's just a brief animated or a brief looping video, then that's great for something like a Facebook ad. Now, Leaderboard and Challenges, I won't go into too much detail here because it's more about the content uploaders on Pexels. So let's switch back over to the search bar here. And now you'll see my recent searches have been things like tax accountant, girl with dog, accounting team. So let's go with tax accountant just for now because, it's tax season. It's on everyone's mind. All right, and you see all of these, they're all free. They're all great. Some more than others, of course, as with any stock photography, but these are all available for you to use in something like what we just built in Canva, right? We have some great shots with people, some with nothing, and it's important to keep that in mind when you're in the context of what you're creating. If you're creating an ad and you want your customers to visualize themselves in a certain scenario, or you want to better represent yourself, then it's worth taking a scroll through quite a few of these so that you can find what really works best for you, right? If I look up a marketing team, for example, now there's going to be ones of just their hands, there's going to be ones of the team, right? And this reflects how, corporate you want to present yourself or how dynamic you want to present yourself, right? We get into ones that are a bit less related here, but eventually I guarantee you'll find something that works great for you. Now, one other tip that I've shown other people in the past that works really well is looking for computers. So say you run a website and you want to promote that website, or say you run an app or something like that, and you want to promote that, a lot of stock photography is going to have computers with completely white screens on them, right? This allows you to, if you have Photoshop at your disposal or something a bit more complicated, it allows you to take a screenshot or a screen grab of your website, for example, and put it right onto that computer screen, right? So that's a great way to promote your business or your web services, right? Especially if you have a solid online platform. Now, when you're searching in this search bar, you really want to make sure that you're being descriptive, but not overly descriptive. You'll see a lot of the ones that are trending or collections, they're usually around 3 words. It's not like Google Images where you're searching a full phrase and then millions of results are coming up. It's something where you should try to be as specific as you can, and then maybe try different wording here and there, right? You'll see, for example, a couple of my recent searches have been young girl with St. Bernard, which if I search that, really not a lot of related imagery. But if I say dog, we're going to get quite a bit better results here. Now, a good part of all of these as well is that Pexel has guidelines for their content uploaders that basically specify how what the quality of pictures needs to be. You can also go into the top right here and choose which orientation you want, which size you want, and what color you want it to be based off of, right? So going back to Canva there, if you had something where, say, your logo is a certain shade of blue, you can enter that in here and it will try to find pictures for you that incorporate that shade of blue, which can be really nice. For example, if your business logo's shade of blue is the same as this dog's kerchief here, then that would be perfect, right? Almost like a Bell commercial at that point. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to, once you've chosen your photo from the grid view here, you're just going to click that photo, and it's going to bring up this page. Now, what I'd like to touch on really briefly here is actually if we go into the info section, it's going to take us through a lot of the photo information here that doesn't really pertain to you too much. But what you're going to want to take a look at is this license area, right? Now, since everything on Pexel is free to use, it's important to note that, but it's also important to note this because some other stock photo websites don't operate the same as these guys do, right? So if I could click to learn more about the license, it's important to take a look at this and know it while you're looking for photos, because there are some limitations to this, right? So these are free to use. Attribution isn't required, which means that you don't need to provide a copyright, a watermark, or any mention of Pexels or the photographer when you're using these photos, which is really nice because if you are to do that, it can cost quite a bit of money, especially depending on how many images you're using per year. So you can use these on your website, promote your product, for social media, for print. The only things that aren't allowed is identifiable people can't appear in a bad light or any way that's offensive. So if you do have someone that is showing their face in a photo, you can't edit that photo to make it seem bad or make it seem like they're a bad person or they do bad things or something like that, right? Or generalizing them based on stereotypes. They can't be in the wrong context. You can't sell these photos, of course. You can't imply endorsement of your product. So if there's, say, a guy using a cash register and you use cash and you sell cash registers, you can't say, hey, he's using our cash register and he's super happy with it. Depending on who's being shown in that photo, right? It's really that there's kind of a thin line there between what's allowed and what's not allowed, but just something important to keep in mind when you're choosing your photos and searching them in the first place. And you can fully edit these photos as you please as well. So if you were to, say, go back to this photo here, but say I didn't want the hand in this and you had the Photoshop skills to do so, you can go in and you can just remove that hand and this photo is still perfectly fine to use. Now from here, what you can do is like it. This will save it to your library once you've signed up. You can collect it. That'll do sort of the same thing, but you can put it into certain folders. And then once you go into free download, you can just click that and you'll see right away it's downloaded. It's in my photos library and I can use it wherever I please. This is just showing information on the photographer themselves. You can exit out of that, and I'll exit out of that as well. and you're good to go. So then you can take that into Canva, onto your website, wherever you please, and you can and you can use that. Are there any questions about that you'd like to cover?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So we can edit it right there, or should we merge with the Canva to edit the picture?
Yeah, so for something like this, if you are you talking about trying to take the hand out, for example, or are you
Yes.
trying? Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you were trying to do that, that would require something more like Photoshop to be able to do.
Oh, yeah, if you don't have Photoshop.
Yeah, if you don't have Photoshop, unfortunately, it's kind of difficult to do that, but there's definitely some workarounds. If I were to bring this into Canva, for example,
Yeah.
I could easily do something pretty strategic by, let's take a look here. Let's try to see if we can whip something up.
Oh, perfect.
So I'll bring that photo in.
Oh, that way. Okay.
Just make it nice and big. And we're either cutting it out, or even if we have it like this, what we could even do is bring in a square that's going to cover your logo area, or do something like this where it's a banner, right? So there's certain workarounds, but if you don't have access to Photoshop, but unfortunately, if you just want the entire photo and you want to be able to cut that out, it would be more of a Photoshop task. There are other free versions similar to Photoshop online, and there aren't any real names that come to mind right now. But if you were to look up free Photoshop tool, then something online might come up that allows you to use it. I can't vouch for the complexity or the simplicity of that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anyone else?
So is it just completely free? Do they just do this out of the goodness of their hearts?
Yeah,
like, why is it free? I'm a little.
Yeah, so the reason it's free, I used to be a photographer actually, and I posted on sites similar to this, but this is mainly for photographers that are trying to, get exposure, or they're trying to get something out there. Pexels does pay some content uploaders based off of the amount of traffic they are bringing into their site, right? So this isn't something where Pexels is looking out to make money necessarily, but they do have a paid version that allows you to have some additional photography, I believe. But the main thing that we're covering here today is just the fact that we have a lot of free photos at our disposal. And it's important to keep that in mind when looking at alternatives, because it's very easy to look for stock photos, find the most popular websites like Getty Images that are going to charge you the most amount of money. And trust me, that comes up on you pretty quick. And then, or just going right to Google Images and finding something from there, because you never know if that's licensable or not. There's other websites, for example, Unsplash is a good one for finding some free photos. You just want to always be sure to, on sites that aren't Pexels, review the licensing details of those pictures, because some of them can get you into some trouble depending on if you've edited them or if you haven't edited them and where you're using them.
Quinn, so that's, I guess, applies to the Shutterstock, right? What's the difference between Pexel and?
Exactly. So websites like Shutterstock or Getty Images, for example, if I go over to Getty Images, I think if I go into images here, right? So here's a good example. You see their watermark here all the time, right? It's the same with Shutterstock. They're going to have something that goes across the screen, and that's really just something you don't want to have in your ads, but also something where if Getty Images or the photographer that took that photo originally sees you using that photo and sees that you've cropped out that watermark, then you can be in some pretty hot water there. So websites like that are pretty much only paid, and then websites like this are, for the most part, free.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions coming up out there?
Quinn, can you speak to maybe some of the workflow for people? I mean, I think one of the things we've talked about in past webinars is kind of like a production day where if you're going to make a social media post, make 10 social media posts.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. Yeah, that's a great opportunity to sort of source content based off of a theme, right? Whether that theme is your business and you're just posting based on what your business does, or if you're posting based off of a seasonal event, right? So that's something where you can easily go into here, source a bunch of photos, really go into Canva, play around. You're not limited by time or anything, so it's a great opportunity to go in and play around with whatever photos you found and generate as much as you can, and then find what works best, right? In my experience, I've used a method that works in terms of using seasonality, but also using different themes sort of based off of how you see these templates set up. It's good to experiment with that if you've never done it before. Find what works best for your business, right? Asking yourself, does this work best for my business? Is this something that shows too much information and my customers don't want to know that much information? Or is something like this a bit better, where it's just, hey, here's something that is get free stuff. Like it's very simple. It communicates it very clearly, and your followers of your page or your customers don't need to look into it too deeply, right?
Another good point there, Quinn, is if you look at the under newsroom Facebook posts, you see those two kind of like excerpts. So I've done it as well for a lot of clients, is where a very big component of your social campaign is to humanize your brand. And one of the ways of you can humanize your brand on social is to actually showcase your employees, or whenever you get a new person on board, or anything that's like maybe like the customer of the month or something, anything to humanize really. And you can use this template to kind of just put in the image of your person, of your own person there, and then kind of give a quote or kind of give like a biography of that person. It's just something that's really interesting you can play around with. Some ideas, right?
Yeah, or even like what you see right here is a great example of a testimonial, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's
again, that's just something great about Canva, that it provides that much flexibility when you're looking at these templates, right? Because really any of these, I can change anything I see fit about it. All right, any other questions coming up? All right.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think just go back to that. Yeah, back to the deck, and essentially, like I said before, if you have any other questions about Canva or Pexel, and there are any other kind of like how to set it up or anything like that, we have the improvement guide. And if you go on to the next slide there, Quinn, you'll kind of outline like under page 29 and page 44 of our free resources guide, and we'll have like a step-by-step as to how to operate this interface. And you can kind of cross-check that with what Quinn said in today's webinar to really get a good hand-on approach as how you can incorporate these two programs and platforms for your business.
Yeah. Sorry, Anthony, continue.
Yeah. Oh, go on.
I just want to chime in and say that some great resources, as I have listed here, are YouTube, your competitors, and your peers, right? For a lot of people, for a lot of businesses, when they're first looking at incorporating marketing graphics like these into their marketing, the best thing you can do is look at your competitors, right? Even if they're not a direct competitor in your area, even if they're 50 times bigger than you, right? It's great to look at what they do. And see what sort of strategies they use in their graphics, what type of imagery, what type of stock photos are they using, or even look at your peers, right? Say, take a look at a big business that does the same thing that you do, but then look at a smaller business that might not do the same thing you do, and see what sort of vibe they go for. A lot of small businesses like to make their brand pretty personable, right? So taking a look at that is a great opportunity. And if you need a refresher on how to use Canva or some of the more intricate details to it, you can always refer to YouTube. I believe Canva has their own account that provides some tutorials. If not, then there are tons and tons of users that have used it and I'm sure are sharing their design tips.
Awesome. Thanks, Quinn. And yeah, as we know before, if you guys have any other questions, you can reach out to myself or Jason, and then we can help you guys out as best from there. And then also on the next slide as well for government support. If you need any more, if you're looking for any more resources on top of this grant, definitely go through that. And if you want to see a walkthrough for this website, we have it back in webinars 2 and 3. So by all means, look back at that on the BI website, and we will you'll be able to find some additional support for the business. And on the next slide as well, next week we'll be going over project management software, Trello, and Asana. Are there any other questions before we wrap up today?
Hi, Quinn, it's Susie.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. How much, maybe, I think Christina mentioned she uses Canva, the paid version. How much does that cost, or are there different levels that you can buy into just based on your own business budget?
I believe it's just the one level, but
so Canva paid is, sorry, Quinn.
Yeah, go ahead.
A quick Google search, Canva Paid Pro, which is the paid version, is $120, $120, and it's paid annually, or it's $12.99 paid monthly.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's pretty affordable. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then I think this has been a really, really helpful webinar, and I just wanted to thank you on behalf of the Downtown Brampton BIA, and we're looking forward to next week's webinar on project management software. So thanks again, guys. These workshops have been extremely helpful, and I know you know, just based on the questions and just the participation that we've had, these have been really, really good. So thanks again. And just a reminder, if you don't have the digital playbook that Winged Whale has put together, please email myself or Tegan, and we'd be happy to get that to you. It is on the BIA website, but we can easily email it to you as well. So thanks again.